Hey guys, what is up? So we have to talk D'Angelo Wallace. Just like a few days ago, he posted a video basically explaining where the heck he went. He actually hasn't been on YouTube in 9 months, and he shows us this like YouTube, plaque. It's in a box that he hasn't opened yet, which is a huge indication off the bat when you're watching this video that he's definitely been off YouTube for a minute. He's just been like, even in his own personal life, just hasn't fucked with it. So D'Angelo tells us that there's good news and there's bad news. So the good news is that he's going to be coming back, uploading new content, but the bad news is basically him explaining where he went. So long story short, he tells us that his anxiety peaked. Like, there's really no huge story other than the fact that he just couldn't think of content to create. He wasn't able to do his job because his anxiety got really bad. So then he goes on to share with us that, he's never really like opened up deeply about his mental health on YouTube, and then shares with us that there's two sides to him, like the one you see on YouTube that's like, in the edited videos, everything's outlined, he's like, kind of snarky, everything is sewed together. And then he explains that the other part of him, the other part of him actually wanted to unalive himself. Now, he definitely explains to us that he didn't ever attempt to kill himself. He didn't attempt to unalive himself, but it doesn't change the fact that it's what he wanted. So when D'Angelo Wallace says that he wants to be unalive but has zero intentions on himself or being unalive, that was deep, because you know how many people feel like the negative thoughts in their head, the negative things that they feel about themselves. They shouldn't say anything, they should remain silent just because they are not actually going to physically harm themselves. They're not going to physically do something that would result in them being unalive. So I felt like that was deep, and I'm so happy that I'm not happy that he has those feelings, but I'm happy that he shared that with us, because this illustrates that if you have negative thoughts in your head, just because you're not going to do something, still get help. And so I'm glad that he was very open with us about it. So D'Angelo Wallace, he tells us that he goes to therapy, and he also shares with us that a huge part of his disappearance for 9 months on YouTube had to deal with burnout, which is completely understandable, guys, because he was on Twitch. I would be watching him thinking how are you on Twitch and then you're also uploading videos? Because even though he has an editor, he has help, it's still hard to manage all of this on 2 different platforms. D'Angelo Wallace tells us that because of the burnout and a few personal things in his life, he was running empty, running in zero, and had nothing. He shares with us that prior to YouTube that he has always been a creator. So when he was out of content for YouTube, he had nothing to draw from, pull from. So that really started his anxiety. And D'Angelo makes it pretty clear that him not uploading for 9 months had nothing to do with a choice. It wasn't his choice to leave. He actually would be having panic attacks. Every single time he would start his camera, press the record button, and actually start filming, he would literally internally have panic attacks. He tells us that his anxiety, it actually physically hurt. Yes, anxiety is a mental thing, but his anxiety and depression actually cause physical pain. He shared with us that his anxiety would be at 115%, and he needed it to be back down to 100%. And he's actually now currently found a way to cope with his anxiety and depression. Yes, his anxiety will always be there, but he's found ways to kind of cope with it. So the number one way he found to cope with it is to basically get off Twitter. He does explain to us that he's obviously still on Twitter because of YouTube, his job, that's where people find him. He explains that he opened up Twitter every single day, pressing that, refresh button. It was to find a reason why he felt so terrible. So after realizing that Twitter had to go, D'Angelo Wallace shares with us that he also evaluated his videos on YouTube. Evaluated his content, asking himself if he liked the content that he's put out, created, and his answer was yes. He loves his content. But what he's realizing is the process of the content. And I've always said, guys, from day one, ever since I saw that Shane Dawson video that D'Angelo Wallace did, let me tell you guys, there is no way that could have not taken an emotional toll. Like from day one, when I saw that video, I've always said this, even when no one was talking about it, I was like, how did he mentally make that video? How did he mentally, like that process, like that must have taken such a huge toll on him. So I understand what he's saying, like he loves putting out content, but sometimes, you know, when you're putting out like content about negative things, it could take a huge toll on you internally. He also explains to us that he felt like he always needed to be in the know when it came to every single bad thing on social media, on YouTube, in the real world. And that took also a mental toll. Like he always had to know the worst thing possible, you know, just to keep up with content. And what's so interesting about this is that his biggest fear was that his business was going to fail, because his business is his YouTube channel, social media, right? But because he fell off and have it uploaded for 9 months, like his, you know, biggest fear happened, right? So now he's at a point to where if he's going to create content, he's going to create content that he loves, that's not going to take like such a mental toll on him. D'Angelo Wallace tells us that he asked himself, like, what's important to you? Like, what do you want out of life? And he tells us that he just wants to create content. He tells us that he's 100% fulfilled with doing that. He feels fulfilled with people connecting to things he created. And it doesn't necessarily have to be bad things that he's talking about. And he even shares with us that negative things create more money, which is like so obvious. Like look at the commentary cheat channels, you know, it's just like what everyone nosy people are, you know, it's completely understandable. But now he's not worried about that anymore. He's just gonna find the right audience. So D'Angelo Wallace, he basically ends the video by saying that he's happy about the new content that's coming out right now pretty soon. And he hopes that we can get something from this video. And I know for certain, like I do, like no matter if you're a small YouTuber, if you're a big YouTuber, if you're not a freaking YouTuber and you just have a job that's stressing you the heck out, you know, it's important to get help and to find ways to kind of like cope with that anxiety or depression, whether that's therapy, like whatever works for you. So I know that's certainly what I got out of this video. And I'm so glad that he actually got the help that he needed and he didn't just like disappear for 9 months and didn't do anything, right? So yeah, like it's pretty sad like he went through that, but sometimes I feel like everything happens for a reason, and I don't know necessarily why that happened to him. And anxiety and depression is definitely not a stranger on YouTube. I feel like maybe last week, I feel like Alicia Marie on the podcast called Pretty Basic, you know, she had something somewhat similar to what D'Angelo Wallace went through. And so I think the bigger message here is that no one is ever going to be alone in anxiety or depression or any mental health illness. So I think it's very important to get help, especially if you need it. You know, don't be afraid, because I know, and it's important to like not be afraid when asking for help, because I know that's like the biggest step ever, the biggest step. And you know, if therapy doesn't work for you, there's always different avenues. But yeah, anyways, leave a comment below, guys. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon on the next video. I do not have glasses on. This is the first video I think I've never, but I just decided to wear contacts today. Anyways, I will see you soon on the next video. Bye, guys.